Broadway and MRL rights-of-way. So to describe what I was saying with regard to the industrial park, what you're looking at here in the lots that are shown colored are the Missoula Development Park. And if you look, this is the Beaumont Industrial Park here. This is De Smet School, and this is a parcel owned by De Smet School. So the Missoula Development Park is a subsection of the industrial park, just to make that clear. Here's the annexation map, shown in a very weird color here, but the gray is the area proposed to be annexed. So going from east to west, you can see we'll be annexing a portion of the West Broadway right-of-way and MRL right-of-way east of Reserve, as well as those rights-of-way west of Reserve all the way up to Butler Creek. Everything on the south side of the West Broadway is airport-owned properties, and then you have the industrial park to the north there. This is the technology park I was talking about, a portion of the development park that will not be annexed. And here we have Canyon Creek Village, and if you know the area, you have Canyon Creek East immediately to the east of Canyon Creek Village, and then Potter Park. So why are we proposing to annex now? The city can expand and efficiently provide service to the annexation area. The airport should be within the city's jurisdiction, with all public and private development inspected and approved by Development Services. The Missoula Development Park TIF district expired about 6 months ago, making way for the city to be able to annex those properties. And Canyon Creek Village, as I just showed you, is immediately adjacent to Canyon East and Windsor Park, and it just makes sense to annex those properties in at the same time. Benefits for property owners will be, I mentioned the Utility Service Review Committee, so development and redevelopment will not have to go through that process, so just come straight to City Development Services. And then there is benefit to the airport from the aviation zoning designation that we're proposing. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And of course, that designation will permit aviation and aviation-related uses on those airport-owned properties. The Missoula Development Park will be built out consistent with existing development and design standards, and annexed properties will receive all of the municipal services that all city residents and business owners enjoy, police, fire, streets, and so forth. There will be some costs to property owners in the annexation area. They'll pay city tax assessments, which generally account for about 28% of property taxes. They'll be relieved of paying some assessments, like the Rural Fire Department and County Road assessments, and they may see lower insurance premiums because of the higher ISO rating of the fire department. Generally, properties in the annexation area should see about a 20% increase in property taxes in 2019, so that will be in the bills that go out a little over a year from now. So looking ahead, if you, the annexation that we're doing by state law does not have to be contiguous with city limits. But as you can see, it is in the area here between Canyon Creek Village and Canyon East. Here along Expressway, where you have residential properties that are already in the city. It is to the south. This is 44 Ranch, and it is to the southwest. This is the Ranch Club. So it creates, if you will, a donut hole here of unincorporated land. And this is, we're seeing a lot of development pressure in this area. I show a triangle here. We already have a petition to annex most of that property for a residential development that's literally come in with in the last week or two, and the remaining properties in that area have already signed petitions to annex. So everything in that red triangle will be annexed within a couple of months. And then we have developments been occurring down here on the south side of West Broadway, including the Garden City Plumbing and Heating and a couple of other developments. So that's already annexed into the city. The parcel that I've shown here with the asterisk is the site that Costco was looking at one point. Now Summit Beverage, I think, has already acquired that site and proposes to develop on that, do a subdivision, and occupy most of that site with their new location. And then there is a small property to the east of that, which came to the Utility Service Review Committee yesterday. So, and we've had a number of other requests as well to do development out in this area. So this is where new development is going. You may know about the build grant that the county applied for, working with the city, and that was to complete the collector road network out in this area, extending England Boulevard, extending Mary Jane Boulevard to the north and south, and extending another road which is escaping me right now. Oh, George Elmer Drive. It's late, so it's almost Wednesday, for crying out loud. So my point being, we have applied for, the county has applied for this build grant working with the city. If we're lucky enough to get that build grant, which we'll know about before the end of the year, hopefully, then we'll be able to put that collector road network in, regardless the easements are in place, and the county for a lot of years now, 15 years or more, has had plans to complete that network. And as you can see, there's a number of relatively large properties out here, and again, many of those owners have expressed an interest in selling their properties for development or doing development. So we know this is where we're going to see a lot of development pressures over the next few years. So just to put this annexation into context, it kind of creates that logical area for future joint planning between the city and the county, which we've committed to, and we know that's where development will occur. So moving on to what we're going to be asking you in 2 weeks' time is to take action and make recommendations on two specific zoning actions. The first one is to create that aviation zoning designation I mentioned, which will be applied to all airport-owned properties. The A zoning designation will permit aviation and aviation-related commercial and industrial uses. It permits existing and future uses compatible with airport operations and airport plans. And the Land Use and Planning Committee tomorrow will consider a request to authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of agreement with the airport. And that's something which it's not required for the annexation, but it's something that the airport has asked for, and we are willing to do in the cooperative spirit because we want this to be a win-win. The second action we'll be asking you to take next week is on an overlay district, neighborhood character / Missoula Development Park. We are planning to assign standard zoning districts to the development park C2, M1, and M1R for the commercial and industrial properties respectively. And there are Missoula Development Park development guidelines under which the development park has been developed for the last 15 or 20 years or so. And for the most part, Title 20 standards will apply and will work just fine. But there's a handful of situations in which there is some differences between the two. For example, in the development park, there are large setbacks because there are some drainage swales that the buildings are set back behind, and it's an industrial park, so things like fencing and outdoor storage. There's some specific standards in the Missoula Development Park design guidelines, and what this overlay will do is perpetuate those guidelines, essentially. We'll be providing you with, we'll have that information before the end of the week out and available, and we'll also, particularly for this action number 2, we'll have a spreadsheet that kind of shows where there were differences and how the overlay would resolve those differences between standard city zoning and how the development park has built out over time. Canyon Creek Village PUD will be adopted by resolution at the time of annexation. That's a PUD that was created back in the OPG days. That's a resolution. It doesn't come before the planning board. And there's a couple of other properties out there. The Dismet School loan properties will be zoned M1 R2. That's an industrial zoning district, but it does allow residential because the school has talked about has an interest in doing residential development on the vacant parcel that they own. And there's a personal storage facility east of Canyon Creek Village, which will get the RT 5.4 zoning, and Vigilante, that's between the rights-of-way of MRL and West Broadway, will be zoned M1R2. Actually, that's wrong. That should say M12, so I take that back. And if you, here's the proposed zoning map, so you can see here are all the airport-owned properties. So these are the properties that would have the A designation. All of the right-of-way would get the M12 designation, that's light industrial, as well as most of the development, the industrial park here. The properties shown in red would be getting C2 designations, and then I mentioned, of course, the green is open space parcels and parkland, and this is the Dismet School, and this is the property just to the north and east of there. So we'd be proposing the M1R zoning for that. So that's how the zoning map would look when this annexation is complete. Just a couple of notes. The annexation would result in the physical expansion of Ward 2 and expansions of the Grant Creek neighborhood to the north of the rights-of-way and Captain John Mullen neighborhood to the south. So we've obviously done a lot of outreach here. We held an open house back in September. About 50 people attended. We had maps, the maps that I'm showing you here today, plus some others, showing the annexation area where we have held petitions, the proposed zoning and so forth. City and county staff were on hand. CAPS were generous enough to provide some staff people to attend that meeting, which is why I'll give them a bit of a break tonight. And we were, between us, able to answer all questions and handle any comments. And the questions, for the most part, related to the Dismet School attendance zone, to development impacts. I think there's some misconceptions that building codes are different in the city and the county. They're state building codes, so they're precisely the same. Questions about city services and taxes. So those were the main questions that were asked. We have set up a web page which has been live since late August, and it contains all the maps that you're seeing, plus a lot of other project information. And the web address is there. It's also, if you go to the Development Services homepage, it's the first link that you'll see on the homepage. So, and we've been updating that, and we'll continue to update that with meeting dates and times. So folks who are interested are able to comment and participate. So I think this is the last slide. I was going to make a joke about having a 2-hour presentation, but I figured it wouldn't be that funny at this point. There'll be a planning board public hearing 2 weeks from today on the A zoning district and the overlay. Following that, City Council will do first and second reading of the zoning ordinance, approve a resolution of intent, and set a public hearing to annex and zone. Those should all happen in November. And then finally in December, City Council, we anticipate will have a public hearing for the zoning upon annexation, and the effective date of the annexation will be the effective date of the zoning, which you all know is 30 days after the council takes action. Oh, I guess I'm done. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Good job.
Good job. We're out of here.
Yeah, quick question, Mike, before you run out. It sounds like you've already received 2 additional annexation requests. Are those going to be bundled into this broader annexation, and or do you expect to receive more now that you've made it kind of public?
They will be handled separately. This is a city-initiated request, which is pretty unusual. The others are primarily, driven by applications. So they will be they'll be handled differently, but they'll likely be almost on the same track, depending on when those applications come in. I think the build grant, I think just the publicity from the build grant, whether we get that or not, I think has raised maybe some expectations of property owners in the donut hole, as I called it. But yes, there's a lot of development pressures. I mean, literally, pretty much every week, I think we're hearing from someone interested in doing some kind of a project in that general area. So the annexation kind of sets the stage for that. And while historically we have provided service to a lot of, I think there's about 1,500 properties or so outside of the city that receive city services. So we've been, pretty conservative in pulling the trigger on annexation. But I think once this large annexation is done, then my guess is the Utility Service Review Committee for properties in this area will probably require annexation as people ask to connect to urban services.
Michael, would you put the website back up again?
Thank you.
I'm just curious about the tech park, why that was left out. Was there a reason behind that? I don't know anything about it, so just curious. There
is an existing TIF district, which is in effect and precludes annexation. So
okay.
That will be a potential logical annexation when the TIF district expires.
I have a question about taxes. You estimated about a 20% increase for homes. So what does that translate into for a $200,000 residence?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, we've been looking at tax assessments, and obviously there's a huge from a small single-family home to a large hotel, as well as all of the industrial and other commercial properties. So the dollar amount will obviously vary significantly. For a single-family home, I'm afraid to throw out a number, but I mean, I'm afraid it's not a huge amount of money. I mean, the homes in Canyon Creek Village, I think their total property tax bills are probably in the less than $2,000 range. So, 20%, it could be $400 maybe.
Yeah. I imagine that's going to be,
as a ballpark.
I imagine that's the elephant in the room.
Well, I mean, certainly we've had a lot less questions than I would have expected, let's put it that way, but we've had questions about the tax implications. But, glass half full or glass half empty. If it's glass half full, they've been getting city services for, in some cases, 20, 30, 40 years. And now is the time to be in the city. So, but it will, there'll be a tax impact for sure.
Are we going to hear from, I thought I saw something going around about Reserve Street. Is that related to this? Or is that something different?
Talking about the SD2?
I think that's the design excellence.
Oh, design excellence,
as well as we're looking, there's design excellence, there's SD2, there's the EC, there's a lot going on with our long-range planning group, and all of those projects are in the
Yeah.
are in the last stages right before they get
So we're not going to hear
adopted.
from that group on this one. It's on something else, I believe.
Right.
But they are bringing in cots on the 30th so that we can all sleep in here.
Yeah,
Following this
I'm doing the
7-hour
first
meeting.
item on the third.
Yeah, that is your right
that's
after
the
waiting
deal.
around.
Payback.
Mike. Yep, we'll flip it around even if you're not first on the printed agenda. Any other questions? Yeah.
Real quick question, on the airport parcel, is that green one, so that's not developable? It's the airport's land, right? Is
We do have petitions for some of the properties out there, including this is the main airport property, obviously, where the runways are and everything. The airport does own a significant amount of land around the main airport property. Some of that is developable, and the airport and some of it is developed, and the airport has interest in accommodating future development in some of those areas. I mean, some are the flight path and areas that need to be protected and stay as open space, and any development of that is either limited or not possible. But areas particularly to the east of the airport, I mean, there are areas out here that are already developed, and these areas are certainly a potential for development. And the airport, like most airports around the country, are being encouraged to generate new revenue streams. And, I think every airport in the country is looking at what is it that we own, is some of it developable, and can we generate some revenues through that development?
I think there's some pretty high-quality farmland out there, too.
Well, there is for sure, and that's definitely something that we'll be talking about. I mean, this area, I'm going to say, is highly developable, but you do have prime agricultural soils. We're very well aware of that. There are some wetlands and some drainage issues, and there's the proximity to the runway. So certainly not everything out here is going to be developable, and we will be, like I said, we have a commitment to work with our friends at the county on doing some joint planning, and certainly some, the preservation of some of the soils out there should be our focus of that.
Any other questions for Mike?
Do you know how far along the stormwater, once the city brings the services in there, it's going to be under our public works, and it's a whole new can of worms. There's a stormwater system that's there. How well have they gotten that under control or figured out what they got going on there?
Well, I think, I can't really speak for Public Works, but I know they've been doing a lot of, they've created the stormwater utility and have been doing a lot of work on that. It's of limited impact out here because, the industrial park already has a drainage system that's managed and maintained by the property owner association out there. So, I mean, it's something that I guess, there are regulations that apply statewide. So we're going to make sure that we meet those regulations. In the context of this annexation that we're talking about today, I think it's a minimal impact.
It's just been a pretty different, the system may have some issues, so the design constraints on our commercial lots we do there are different than what we've done in the city because of the clay soils. And so it's something that the city engineering, just should be prepared for, because it's a very systemized review that we have in the county now because they understand it. And I just hope that smoothness continues on when the city engineering takes it over. That's one of my concerns that, I would have. Is that, a project that might develop over a month or two might take 3 months if they don't understand it.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think we're the city is very well aware of, some of those challenges.
Okay, well, we'll talk a lot more about this, I would imagine, in 2 weeks. So thanks, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, the point was, I think when we get to the presentation next week, we're just going to, we've given you the big picture, so we're going to be just focusing on the technical aspects of those two text changes. I think I'll introduce it, and Andrew Bowen from my staff, who's been doing a lot of work on this, I think is going to do the heavy lifting on the presentation, which
Good deal.
shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an important detail, I think, to make everybody aware of is, as you and I and Helen have talked about, the annexation is not the subject of the public hearing. That is not within our purview. It's the zoning, the A district and the overlay. That's what we're here to review, so.
Thank you.
Anyway. All right, item number 8, committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Dudley? Nothing? Old business, any old business? New business and referrals? Comments from planning, you guys are looking at me like my kids on Christmas morning. Comments from planning board members? I've got a few, but I'll save them for next time. Okay, we'll adjourn. Thank you guys. Thanks for everybody's hard work
Start
tonight
giving them
and
5 minutes.
attention to
Give them
detail.
5 minutes, John. Yeah. I didn't make last transportation meeting, sorry. It's out of town.